And welcome back to Digital Futures 2022. Of course, we are up to the most exciting part, I believe, the panel discussion. We have heard from some incredible keynote speakers today. The need for women to enter the tech industry has never been more important. The value women can add to the tech industry is unmatched and it's necessary. And after hearing the incredible stories from our speakers here today, we hope this gives you a wider perspective of all the different types of areas of the industry you can actually enter. Let's chat with our panel now as we discuss how overcoming internal hurdles, as much as external ones, are just as important, if not more important, when entering the digital space. I have the amazing Ali Watson online. We've got Dr. Jenine that we just heard from, our keynote speaker, and of course, Kristin and Candice. And very sad for Darwin that we've lost you, but engineers at Google, my goodness, you two, I think you've really hit the pinnacle there, and at such a young age. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking? I know women should never ask each other that question, but I just want to, I want to know because you seem so young.
I'm an elder millennial. I'm 23.
Amazing. Well, look, you're such an inspiration, and you know it's so fantastic to have you with us today. Now, Dr. Jenine actually has been talking about, you know, girls in tech are superheroes and talking about our superpowers. Do you know what your superpower would be? It's a heavy question.
I mean, aside from the X-ray vision and super strength, I'd say it would be my compassion and resilience.
I love it. Two very important things.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping for like laser vision too or something, but I'd probably say my my slightly more disappointing superpower is curiosity. Like just feeling the need to go after opportunities, find things out for myself and explore. I think that is my superpower.
I love that. Now, Dr. Jenine, I know you said you get asked all the time. What's some of the most common kind of answers you get, or maybe some of the most abstract answers you get when people ask what your superhero power is?
Where it kind of mimics everything around it, and I'd love to be able to transform myself into whatever I see in the room kind of thing. I think that's a great superpower. But yeah, I think not boring, but I think practically, I think it is around compassion, empathy, looking out for others. It's around bringing other people on board, being able to see people behind us who we're leaving behind and bringing them forward with us, I think is really important for equity and for having that level playing field. It's about connecting people. It's about finding a way to help people find their potential. So I think there's so many of us are in that space where that's what's important to us, and those things can make a real difference.
Oh, I love it. All right, now, Ali, if we can go to you with such a broad range of opportunities in the tech world today, how do you suggest you could choose the right path for you? Oh, we don't have Ali. Well, I'm going to go to you lovely ladies up here, Kristin and Candice. Tell me about how you think you can find your path in the tech world for someone considering it.
Oh, I really love this question because I've been quite lucky through doing tutoring and working at a startup where you were very tech education focused. I got to see a lot of people sort of find their feet and find areas that they were really interested in. And like it may sound like kind of intimidating advice. You just have to go try it. Like I know, and it doesn't have to be as extreme as enrolling in a tertiary degree, for example. There are so many free resources that you can do in your own time, like self-paced courses or certifications that you can do completely remotely to kind of dip your toes in, see what you like, see what you don't like, because odds are there will be some trial and error. And I didn't choose my specialization until I went and practically tried it. And I think that is the way to go for a lot of people. So don't be scared. Just go try things if they look exciting and interesting to you.
I'd also like to chime in on that. You want to not be an anonymous CV in a pile, especially if you're going into tech from, an alternative entry, such as doing a course or maybe being self-taught. A degree is a great way to build those relationships and those networks, but you can also start to attend meetups, start to attend events, go to conferences, talk to people, and no longer be that unknown entity, because those are the referrals that will get you your first job.
There you go. Love it. Okay. Well, tell me, we've talked a little bit about imposter syndrome, and I know that Dr. Jenine touched on it before as well. We're all privy to it. It kind of happens no matter the industry you're in. It really does. A lot of the time, whether we admit it or not, we go, am I qualified for this? Can I actually do this? Can you tell me some of those hurdles that come up for you ladies, that you sort of, a way to jump on it, or a way to deal with those sorts of difficulties that pop up?
Yeah, absolutely. This is another area that I'm really passionate about, because I think that a lot of people don't actually go for things they really want to do because they do feel that way. And it doesn't just affect women either, or people from rural areas. I've seen it with people who I even think should be really confident. And I go, hey, why do you have imposter syndrome? And then I go, oh, wait, I think we all do a little bit. But my best advice would be, you need to build a case for yourself to swat down those thoughts and those beliefs, because you're probably focusing on the areas that you see as shortcomings, and you're not looking at your strengths and the things that you're incredible at. And you don't necessarily need to be the perfect person for a job. Doesn't necessarily look a certain way. So you don't need to worry about being the same as other people who are good at the job. You bring your own unique strengths to the game, and you just need to focus on those.
Great answer. I think even Ali Watson was saying before as well that the way that she kind of can deal with it is by journaling, writing down the things that you are good at, you're good at, and telling yourself that every single day. Dr. Jenine, do you have any thoughts on that, what Kristin has just said?
I love that, Kristin. And I think sometimes what you think is your weakness is actually your strength. So if we can flip it around, and if I think of what's my weakness, it's trusting people. I trust people probably far too much sometimes, but then I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't trust people. And I think, well, do I stop trusting people because sometimes people don't do the right thing, and that makes you want to maybe not do it at all, but then you don't want to discount the benefit you get from that. So it is a real strength, even though it is a weakness, but then that has brought me so many great opportunities by having that trust in people. So I think sometimes flip it around too and see it from the other perspective.
I also want to touch on what you said before, Dr. Jenine, about having a mentor or being a mentor, and how advantageous it can be for both parties. Do you two girls have a mentor, or do you mentor anybody?
Yeah, I'd say I have numerous mentors, and I've been very lucky in that regard. I met a few at university. I met some people out in industry, such as Philip Jenkinson from Bowditch. He's been a massive champion to me and has introduced me to numerous networks and opportunities. So yeah, I've been very lucky in that regard to find those mentors, and hopefully be a mentor myself along that journey.
How about you, Kristin?
I don't think I have a sort of particularly structured mentor per se, but there's definitely people that I've asked for advice along the way and that I've looked up to, and I still look up to. I have so many people that I admire and respect at work. So I would say they're mentors to me.
They just don't know it. But no, of course, it's so important.
And Rosie, if I can jump in, I think there's a real difference there.
With us before, Dr. Jenine, about having a mentor and comparing it to happiness. Did you?
Absolutely. It's mentoring a young person is a sign of it actually elevates your happiness endlessly. It's really good for your health. And I think it's really important to distinguish between a mentor and a sponsor, and we need both of them. So a mentor is someone who, whether formally or informally, you look up to, you ask questions, you follow them, they give you advice. And a sponsor is someone who kind of is in the room on your behalf and talks about how awesome you are without you being in the room. So I think there's a difference between them, and I think we kind of need both of them if we can.
All right, I might direct this one to Candice. Do you think there are enough pathways for Territorians to start a career in digital, or do we have work to do? The anti-government is listening.
Wow, that's a very big and quite a political question. I would say we have work to do in terms of creating excitement in our youth and in school, having access to like very strong IT courses, just to, I guess, spark that inspiration early on. And create like an inclusive pathway, maybe even earlier from like primary school to middle school to high school. You want that to be a journey. So yeah, I don't know. We have CDU. I know that there's a computer science degree now, which is really, really amazing. And yeah, I guess just more programs of that nature. I got to visit this really great school in Victoria. I think it was Bendigo Tech, and they were like, first of their kind. And it was a program for high schoolers essentially, where they could go to this incredibly high tech, academic environment, and they got to work with a makerspace, logic boards, and learn how to program in like a very tangible way. And it was extremely, it was a fun environment. Like it had these, these chairs that were like springy chairs, and you could, it was there to sort of keep students engaged, knowing that sometimes, there were different learning styles, and it wanted to be like the environment itself was very inclusive to all types of students. And so I'd like to see something like that, something like Bendigo Tech in the Northern Territory.
Oh, there you go. Listen up, NT Gov. Sounds good. All right. Dr. Jenine, can you elaborate a little bit? We've had a question through. Can you elaborate a little bit on the pathway you took to get where you are today? Your incredible resume.
I'd be happy to, and it certainly wasn't a traditional one. Not that I advocate following my pathway, but I think it shows there are so many different ways into tech. And I think there's some interesting stats that half the people who work in tech actually came from different disciplines and different backgrounds. And then half the people who have tech degrees actually work in different disciplines. It's this funny dynamic that we have. And so I was actually quite late to university. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I did a diploma of business at TAFE, and then I went on to do an IT degree. And the reason I did an IT degree, because I thought, computers are quite new. There's always going to be something to learn, so let's give it a try. And I love to tinker. I love to play with technology. And so I worked through the IT degree. I almost quit along the way because I was programming like assembler code and something very technical that made no relevance to the real world. And I was like, why am I here? But I was very fortunate. I discovered information systems. And information systems is very much about people and technology, and how, technology is not really anything without people. So for me, that's been my expertise and my way of understanding technology, and how can we make technology useful for people and not make our jobs harder. So that's been my pathway, and I was very fortunate to have some great female lecturers in my degree who took me under their wing. There were only a few of us, and took me into doing women in technology research, and kind of led me to the path where I am now. But I've had lots of support, even though there wasn't a lot, but there were the pockets of it that made all the difference. So I'm a big fan of the starfish analogy. So there's this idea that we walk on the beach and we find a starfish on the beach, and we throw the starfish back in the ocean, and we sort of save them one at a time. And that's always been our thoughts with Girls in Tech. It's like, if we can save one girl or get one girl in tech, then that's a good day's work.
It's so fantastic. There's such a common thread between all the keynote speakers that we've heard today, and that is to really lean on your support network, right? In any case, whenever facing any challenges, to really lean on those around you, not just your peers, but your mentors, and that sort of thing can really save us. Kristin, we have a question for you. Are there similarities between the way Google and the defence work operationally?
I'll say at an organizational level, I wouldn't say there's a great deal of similarities, but in respect to the cyber area and threat modeling, absolutely. Because when we're thinking about like defending in a battle context versus a cyber context, it's the same sort of thing. You need intelligence about what you're up against. You need to know how to prepare yourself, how to defend, how to design like mechanisms to implement damage control and that sort of thing if something does go wrong. So there is a lot of similarity between it. I think, actually, sort of on a tangent, if anyone enjoys sort of like battle strategy games, 10 out of 10 would recommend checking out cybersecurity.
All right, I love it. Okay, so who do you recommend following for those of us interested in digital? Are there some amazing leaders, Instagrams and that sort of thing that we could follow and feel inspired?
I hear Twitter is the place to go. I don't have much social media though. I joined Instagram, but I mainly just follow Indigenous like digital content creators. and keep in that space. But yeah, maybe I'll hand this over to Crispy.
Unfortunately, I'm not too well versed in this department as well. I just mostly follow cat and meme pages, but I think it's probably the best way to figure out people who put out content that you really enjoy is like looking at articles, blog posts, and then when you find someone who you really enjoy the content of, then you can sort of like go, okay, I'll follow them. I'll keep an eye out for anything they put out in the future. You can sort of like build up a good portfolio of information that you find relevant and inspiring that way.
Nice. And there's nothing wrong with cat pages or meme pages, I reckon, for a good laugh. All right, Dr. Jenine, for those watching, up and comers, I know that you talk to school kids and all of that. Can you tell us, I want to get into tech. Where do I start?
I'd say just start. And I think what Kristin said before around there's so many free resources out there to get started. So just find something you're interested in. So what is that passion? Is it around, AI? Is it around cybersecurity? What is it? Is it around environment? And then just test yourself out online. There are so many tools and just give it a try. Let's build a chatbot. Let's have a go at designing something that solves a problem that we care about. And I think the most important thing is to get hands-on. We can learn about things forever, but unless we actually try it, and like I said, breaking technology is really important. And we really encourage that with our young people. We had a bunch of young girls who actually broke a chatbot that the developers were building, which was amazing. The developers we've never had any adults do that with the technology. We didn't realize kids would do that, which I loved because kids found new ways of exploring it. So I think the best thing you can do is give it a try, break it, fail a lot, fail fast, and that's where success comes from.
Well, sort of what you were saying before, Kristin, as well, much the same. You could just try it. Go out and try what you want. Try before you buy, I guess, in a way. And there's so many opportunities for you for that. Now, we've got a couple more questions before we do wrap up for the day. What are the corporate policies in respect of recruiting women in tech? Are there active recruitment campaigns? That question goes out to anyone willing to have a go at it.
I think it's quite a broad one. So I think it would be very company dependent if they had like a specific policy or if they were actively trying to recruit women into tech. But I think the dialogue is there now when it hasn't been before, which is really fantastic, and it is a step in the right direction. But I guess it's a combination of people getting the messaging out and the jobs actually actively recruiting as well.
Well, a last question before we wrap up our panel. We really appreciate your time so far. What sort of opportunities or projects did you get involved with that propelled your career? And how do you spot them? What should we be keeping an eye out for? Dr. Jenine, do you want to start us off with that? What sort of opportunities or projects did you get involved with at the start that really propelled your career?
That's a really great question. I guess I just loved, I don't game now, but I used to love gaming when I was young and loved just playing with different devices and technology and testing them out. When I was at university, I was very fortunate to be a part of a project with the Australian Bureau of Statistics. And we did a project where we were looking at, it was actually quite a morbid topic, but it was around looking at stats around a portion of society who were not so fortunate, but understanding a situation with young people and suicide and how, I guess, what the situation actually was and what the numbers tell us. And for me, that told me that knowledge is power and that data is power and that we can use data for good to help us to make good decisions. So it taught me a lot being part of that project where we were able to give back to do something really positive for society.
Yeah, right. Well, we have one more last question. Any thoughts or opinions on gender pay, the gap, I'm sure, especially in the NT? You two, maybe.
That's a very spicy question. I'm actually not sure about the gender pay gap data from the Northern Territory, but there's heaps of different discourse around why that exists and everything from like parental leave affecting women's outcomes and taking them away from, and that also that expectation that they're going to be away from work and miss out on that, maybe a year or two out of the workplace, and I guess not having those career acceleration moments. But Yeah, in terms of pay gap, that like again, there's numerous factors that people like to discuss, such as coming in and coming into an organization that's like enormous, and being hired at a level or hired under leveled, and maybe a good culture would compensate for that, and that person would immediately move up the ranks and be able to, I guess, be in the right the level fit for their job description and be paid appropriately. So yeah, it's a mixture of like women, perhaps not having access to the same education opportunities to get into these high-paying fields, and also coming in perhaps at an under level or and so forth. So dealing with everything from so stereotype bias, so this is, I'm talking globally speaking. So, we know that there's like numerous factors at play. And I think in the Australian context, employers can, I guess, work to address those gaps and work on that cultural practice internally.
I mean, it sounds simple. Let's get paid for the job we do, not the gender we are, hey? I think that would make a very happy nation for sure. Look, thank you so much to our incredible keynote speakers, of course, Ali, Kristin, Candice, and Dr. Jenine. Thank you so much. You're such an inspiration. I hope you've all enjoyed it very much, the Digital Futures for 2022, Paving the Digital Way. My name's Amanda. It's been an absolute honour to be with you and amongst such great company today. Really hope you're inspired to get into the tech industry. Thank you very much.